I was just asking everybody to send in where they were from so that we could get familiar with the chat. So we got people from all over the country and from Canada. So I'm glad we have one international. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started now. So for those of you who don't know me, or if this is your first time joining in, my name is Kate. I'm one of the nutritionists here at OnPoint, and I've been with OnPoint, Texas too. We have a Texas person. So we're kind of like all over the country, Philly. Okay. So been here at OnPoint for over 3 years, and kind of like from the beginning. So we just started doing these webinars for everybody when we've kind of like transitioned to fully remote work. We have Williamsburg, Virginia. That's awesome. So I'm glad that you guys are joining me tonight. I wanted to do a webinar on something that I think is really helpful for clients, especially, you know, just working with clients myself, is meal prep, something that we talk about all the time and how important it is to plan ahead. So I would love to just give you some ideas for how to make it easier, and hopefully you find it helpful. And I also just prefaced this a little bit ago that I have a dog. I wanted to be close to my kitchen so that I could show everybody some, you know, demo. So hopefully he doesn't see any squirrels or bunnies outside. So let's get started. And then, like I said, if anybody has any questions that you want answered, you can just send them right through the chat, or if you wanted to unmute yourself, if that's easier, you can just keep the questions rolling as we're going. So first off, anybody who's been working with us knows that planning ahead is definitely like one of the main things about kind of like staying on track in your program. So wanted to talk about some of the benefits of meal prepping or meal planning. One of the things, obviously, is to save time. So getting ahead of the game and setting aside time to prepare for your week is, you know, a major key. You can meal prep for 1 day or 3 or 7. So I think a lot of times meal prep is kind of scary to people because you might think that it takes a lot of time, or, you know, that you'll spend like all of Sunday in your kitchen, and that's the number one reason that people say that they don't plan ahead, is that they didn't have time. But I think actually meal prepping saves you time. So I just want to admit someone else. Okay, so when you cook in bulk and prepare your meals, you'll save time and actually stress less about your food choices during the busy week. So you can even sleep better knowing that you're prepared. So there's a whole, you know, a lot of benefits to kind of like saving time, planning ahead, getting ahead of the game, being prepared for your week. And then you could also possibly have better sleep, just knowing that you're prepared. Here he is. This is Diego. This is Little Hood. So saving money is another huge one. It's no surprise that preparing meals at home is cheaper than going out to eat. Did you know it's actually close to 50% cheaper to meal prep and eat your food at home than it is to go out to eat or to order food? Not only that, but it saves calories. So by preparing your own meals and snacks, you're less likely to, you know, if you are working in an office, wander to the vending machine or order food out or stop at a convenience store. And meal prepping ensures proper portion sizes, so there's no excess calories. So you know exactly what's in your food. I was just talking to a client about this earlier today because she was mentioning it was a big win for her that this weekend she really wanted to order, I think it was Zoe's Kitchen. They were talking about going to Zoe's Kitchen, and she was just saying that she had pretty much all the things at home to make what she would have ordered from Zoe's. So in that moment, she just said to herself, like, I already have all this food at home. It's going to be so much better if I just make it myself, because I know exactly what's in it, and I know all the calories and kind of like fat content that would be in it, and it would probably be better tasting, honestly. So I know what everybody's thinking, maybe like, it's a time commitment. I don't have enough time to plan my meals for the week. Meal prep can take anywhere from 1 to 4 hours. I think it can even take 30 minutes. That's what I wanted to show you today, was really quick breakfast things that you can do. I did prep a couple of the things in advance just for sake of time and not having to just watch me fry an egg. But it depends on how many meals you want to make. So we want to talk about how to make the most of your time in the kitchen. Being organized is number one. So mapping out your menu before you start cooking. Think about the meals that you want to prepare and the ingredients that you need to make that happen. So kind of like get all of your, all the cooking utensils out and kind of like figure out how long each item takes to cook. You want to start those first. So, you know, I was prepping dinner earlier today and I made a stir fry and I started the rice first because that takes the longest. Everything else kind of like comes in at the end and you can just keep all those things going at one time, but you kind of like start the ingredient that takes the longest cooking first. So that's one thing, kind of like getting organized, mapping out your menu and thinking about what you want to make for the week and then have your ingredients ready to make it happen. So then make a plan. Pick one day of the week to prepare your meals and snacks. You can set aside 30 minutes. You can set aside an hour, 4 hours, because that time that you spend cooking will save you that precious time during your week. And then using your entire kitchen. So you have the equipment, put it to work. Use your oven to bake protein like chicken, turkey, fish. At the same time, you can have your stove, hard boiling eggs, prepping whole grains, steaming vegetables. So you can do multiple things at a time. Yeah. So, hey, I'm sorry, 1 second. Okay, I'm back. I'm so sorry. Nothing like a live recording. My dog just let himself out of the house, which he has never done, and just ran into the backyard. So I apologize for that. He just totally let himself out. So back to what I was saying, using your entire kitchen. So you have the equipment, put it to work. Use your oven, use multiple things at one time. So I know that this, you know, we're talking about breakfast, but earlier today, when I was prepping my dinner, like I said, I was using the stove to prep my rice. And then I was also prepping vegetables to go in the stir fry. And I was using the oven to make chicken. So kind of like doing all those things at one time. And it took me, you know, my break time to do all that because I was multitasking. So putting all of your equipment to work and then multitasking. So while your food is cooking, use that extra time to chop vegetables, portion out your sauces and dressing and prepare food in the other cooking equipment. So your food processor, your blender, your slow cooker, your air fryer, the things that are quicker. So while you have your rice cooking, you know, referencing my dinner again, I was sauteing the vegetables at the same time. So kind of like multitasking, because if you do it one at a time, it will take you the whole day. And then keeping it clean. So cleaning up as you go. Don't let your dirty dishes pile up because while you might think it'll just be faster to do it at the end, if you need to reuse a bowl or if you need to reuse something, it's going to slow down the process. So once I kind of finish with one step, then I like to clean those dishes and then like move on to the next thing. Again, this might all be information that you guys know, but multitasking, cleaning, using your entire kitchen, making a plan, get organized, set aside the time. These are all things that will help you kind of like, you know, divide and conquer and get your meal prep. So, you know, on to breakfast. Most common breakfast mistakes are skipping. So if you've started working with OnPoint, chances are maybe you skipped breakfast in the past. I'm sure that your nutritionist or dietitian is always wanting you to eat breakfast or asking you why you didn't eat breakfast. Or, you know, another common mistake with breakfast is waiting until the morning to prepare. Trust me, you never do it. I certainly typically at least plan my breakfast. Even if I'm going to make it in the morning on demand, I usually have an idea of what I'm going to make. I know where my ingredients are. I know that I have what I want to make and set aside the time in the morning to do it, especially now with, you know, working remotely. It's a little bit easier to make breakfast on demand, but typically saying that you'll do it in the morning doesn't work. Not having a balanced breakfast or enough for breakfast is a big mistake too. So sometimes we think like a cheese stick or a banana will be enough, but then it comes to lunch if you skipped your morning snack and all you've had so far is a banana. Okay, so not having a balanced breakfast could possibly be cause for eating more later. If you don't eat enough food in the morning or for your lunch or, you know, for the first half of your day, you're more likely to consume those calories that you would have had in addition to the lunch and dinner on top of all of those things. So, you know, when your body is in starvation mode, we automatically crave carbohydrates for energy. So then by the time you get to lunch, if you haven't had breakfast or enough for breakfast, the chances of you overeating are higher. Another breakfast mistake is an imbalance of macronutrients. So, you know, if you haven't heard your nutritionist or dietitian talk about macronutrients before, that's your protein, your carbohydrates, and your fat. So that's all of the big, you know, macro, you can look at it as like big nutrients that make up your food. Okay. So all, you know, your food, your intake is broken down by, on your OnPoint plan, 40% of your intake coming from carbohydrates, 30% coming from your fat, and 30% coming from your protein. So they make up most of your food. So an imbalance of macronutrient is a common breakfast mistake. So what you want to try to do is structure it with protein, starch, and fat for fullness. So that would kind of be like a balanced meal if you had something that was protein, carbohydrate, and fat. So for breakfast, that might be eggs, that might be toast and avocado. There's a good example. Another thing, you know, if you're not really like an eggs person, if you like to do like Greek yogurt, that could be a half protein portion. You can also do like granola, which we would consider to be a starch and a fat on top with maybe some fruit. So kind of like making sure you have something from more than one food group in the morning, because that will help you stay full. And then another mistake is getting stuck in the breakfast norm. So it's okay to have something unconventional for breakfast, like what I'm going to demonstrate to you, a savory oatmeal bowl, or kind of like adding vegetables in. So for instance, a lot of my clients recently actually have been adding in eggs, salad to their eggs. So having like a salad in the morning isn't really conventional, but if that's something exciting that will kind of like help you to eat a vegetable serving in the morning, then if that works for you, that's a great spot to put it. So I'd love to hear some of your favorite things to meal prep or for breakfast, if anybody wants to send it into the chat, just to give some ideas to the other clients. Overnight oats. So overnight oats is probably like one of my favorite things to make, and my clients are probably so tired of me suggesting overnight oats to them. But instead of doing overnight oats for this demo, I want to show everybody how to make overnight chia. So I'll be demonstrating an overnight chia recipe and a savory oats. So overnight oats are one of my favorites. Seriously, 5 minutes or less to make. So there's no real excuse why you can't do that the night before. I like to do it when I'm watching TV, like in the commercials. Somebody said that they really like making avocado toast with 2 eggs, feta, and tomatoes. I can tell you right now, when anybody says they don't have time to make eggs, you have time. Eggs take less than 5 minutes to make. Toast, pop it in the toaster oven. You can have your avocado already made. So I actually had avocado toast this morning, and I made I prepared the avocado smashed with pepper and salt and garlic, and I have it in a Tupperware, and it'll stay good for a couple days. Somebody asked if the avocado will be brown. It does turn kind of like slightly brown. I like to kind of just like mix it up in the morning, and then it's okay. It's usually good for like 2 days. Avocado toast with different toppings. To answer that person's question, will it be brown? My boyfriend usually gets to it before it could turn brown. But again, it'll probably last you like 2 days if you prep it out of the shell. And someone also mentioned if you put lime juice on the avocado, it won't turn brown, which is a good tip too. So I usually like to prep mine and put it in the container into into the Tupperware. But another way that you could do it is if you want to cut open your avocado, and then if you just want a half, or if you want kind of like a quarter of an avocado, just scoop that portion out and then like piece the avocado back together. And then I put it in the fridge like that. And then it's usually good the next day too. And I don't usually put any lime or lemon on it. It usually stays green. Somebody mentioned that Sam's Club sells individual serving size smashed avocado prepackaged. I've seen that there before. You can also freeze your avocado when it starts to go bad and use that for later. Or you can buy it frozen too, but it's cheaper to freeze your own. So those are all great breakfast ideas. I just wanted to like touch on some good kitchen tools. So for all of the OnPoint clients, if you don't already have wet and dry measuring cups and measuring spoons, that's definitely something that you want to make sure that you have. Or if you're a new client, you want a knife set. You know, it doesn't have to be fancy, but just kind of like knives that chop well, or that just chop. A digital food scale. So that's going to be a big one for making sure that you can measure your protein. Vegetable and fruit peeler. So that's kind of important when you're doing meal prep, when you're working with fresh produce. Cutting boards, a thermometer. So nothing ruins dinner like undercooked meat. So a digital thermometer will help you there. A cast iron skillet, not a necessity, but it can move like from the stovetop to the oven seamlessly. So that's a big help. It's like a multi-purpose pan, and you can make desserts in it too. Glass containers. So glass bowls are easier to clean than plastic, and they microwave safely. A slow cooker. So maybe not necessary for breakfast, but it's a gadget that you can cook an entire meal with like minimal effort. I mean, chili last weekend, all I did was chop everything, throw it in there, and then it just cooked all day. Somebody mentioned, what do we mean wet and dry measuring utensils? So measuring cups and measuring spoons are just as important as your food scale, because portioning is going to be key. So when I say wet and dry, the dry ones are usually the ones with the handles. So they kind of like nest within each other, and you can use those for flour. You can use them for oats, for measuring out your grains and cooked food. And then the wet ones are like the pitchers that you would use for liquids. And then obviously measuring cups and measuring spoons. All right, so what I wanted to do tonight was show you how to meal prep breakfast for a couple of days. So these recipes will help you save time in the morning, and will set you up for healthy breakfast options for a couple of days. Like we all know, if you don't start the day off right, it's harder to get back on track. So we want to make sure that doesn't happen to you. So one of the first things, so I'm going to take you guys into my kitchen now. Alrighty, so on the OnPoint Nutrition website, we have a recipe for savory oats. So I believe it's called savory oatmeal, and I'm going to include that in the follow-up email to you. But if you go on to the OnPoint Nutrition website and go to the member portal and go to the recipe database and type in savory oatmeal, it will pop up. So there are, oops, somebody else is coming in. There are so many easy and customizable recipes that you can kind of like build off of, and those are the kind of things that I love. Overnight oats is one of those. This savory oatmeal is going to be another one too. So in this, you can use black beans, sweet potatoes, quinoa. You can use oats. I believe the one on the member portal might have oats only. But you can kind of use any of these grains as your base, which you might not think of for breakfast, not like that savory thought. A lot of times with oatmeal, we think sweet. So you can also add eggs to it. I'm going to show you an option with eggs, but you do have the option to add tofu or chicken, or kind of like, you can even add Greek yogurt if that's what you want. So all of the ingredients could be mixed ahead of time or prepared separately to assemble during the week. So let me show you guys here. I have all the things that I'm prepping for today. So, give you a closer look. I already prepped the oats earlier. So I like to use these containers that have like a handle. I like to prep the food in the container that I'm going to eat it out of. I just like to store it that way and then eat it. But you can use any container that you want. This is easily microwavable too. So kind of keep that in mind. So I already prepped my oats. I just made these in the microwave with water. You could make them on the stovetop too. There is a 1/4 cup raw, which equals 1 starch portion cooked, because there's about a 1/2 cup in here cooked, okay? So with my savory oats, like I said, I did make some of the stuff ahead of time. So I made an egg right before the webinar. So I'm just gonna go ahead and slide this in there. So again, this could be something that you make the night before, or you could make it kind of like on demand. We talked about eggs being really quick to cook. This oatmeal took like 1 minute, 1.5 minutes in the microwave. And then you could add cheese. You could add, I'm gonna add salsa as an example. So you have the option, you can do cheese, you can do salsa. On the member portal, we added green onions to it. You could add sauteed spinach and broccoli. These are great because then you can kind of like add in whatever toppings you want. So with this, I have oats, I have egg, I have some spinach in there too, and then salsa. So this is like a savory oat bowl. You could eat this cold or you could heat it up. So all in all, this probably will take you less than a half hour if you wanted to make these for a couple days. So this is something easy that you can make in the morning too. Anybody have any ideas for toppings that they would also put on here? Avocado would be a good one. So earlier I was talking about hitting more than one macronutrient in your breakfast. So we have your carbohydrates would be coming from your oats. You have protein with your egg, and then vegetable with, you know, if you add spinach or if you add peppers and onions, and then your salsa is really just a condiment. So we would need to add a fat to this one in order to hit kind of like everything. So we could put avocado in here. I just want to show everybody what my refrigerated avocado looks like too. So somebody asked if it was a little brown. You can see it's a little. It is a little bit, but when you kind of like mix it all up, it's okay still. This will be good for tomorrow. And then I like to use these glass containers that have locking lids, so this stays pretty fresh. Somebody mentioned they can see bok choy, kale, quinoa instead of oats. I think that sounds awesome. So you're kind of like on the right track of like that savory, outside of the box meal for the morning. So the bok choy would definitely be a vegetable serving, or the kale, or both. And then quinoa instead of the oats is another one. You could also do, instead of doing like 1/2 cup of just quinoa, you could do a 1/4 cup of quinoa and a 1/4 cup of black beans if you wanted to make it a little bit more interesting there too. Like we said, or like I said, you can substitute the egg for tofu or chicken if you don't eat eggs. I don't eat eggs, but this will be eaten by somebody else. So you could do like a tofu scramble or add in a different protein. So I really love that idea. I think that would be great. You could also do a base of potatoes. So a lot of people don't think to do that ahead of time, but you could roast potatoes in the oven for the whole week. I would set out all of your bowls. So I'm making 2 different things here. Otherwise, you know, if I was doing this all just to make a couple of days of the same thing, I would set up all of my containers, drop the sweet potatoes, the oats, the quinoa, whatever your starch was in each one, go back, put all the eggs in, put all the veggies in, put the fat, and then make sure you get all your portions that way. Does anybody else have any other toppings or questions about that? I'm going to send the recipe right here for the one that we have on the member portal for the savory oats. You can see how easy it was to make. But then again, it also lives on the member portal. So the next thing I wanted to show you, so then these lids, they fit in really well. Again, this is a glass container. And then when I want to microwave it or heat it up, just take that off and microwave it. So this is perfect. Another thing, sorry, I don't want to talk too far away from you. Another thing too is meal prep containers are a great tool to have. So I just want to show you guys the bento boxes that I have. So I'm pretty sure I got these from Amazon, but you can see that they're separated. So you have two small compartments here, and then you have a bigger one here. And then these are the lids that go with them. So that can make things easy if you don't like your food to touch, or if you want to make it kind of like a little bit neater. These are great. And these can microwave too. They are plastic, but they're not very expensive. But otherwise, making sure you have good Tupperware is a good thing too. So I just wanted to walk everybody through how to make a chia, an overnight chia. So I know overnight oats is really popular right now. And like I said, I'm always recommending overnight oats because you can eat them cold or you can heat them up. They take less than 5 minutes to make. Somebody asked if rolled oats were the same as quick oats. So honestly, generally, I just buy either. I like to buy them like from Walmart or wherever I can get like the really big container for cheaper. So the only thing that I think you wouldn't want to do overnight oats with is steel cut oats, just because they don't really soak up the moisture as much as the rolled oats or quick oats do. So quick oats or quick rolling oats are rolled oats that go through further processing so that there's decreased cook time. So they're usually partially cooked by steaming and then possibly even rolled thinner than old-fashioned oats. So the quick oats are a little bit different than kind of like rolled oats. It's kind of like minute rice versus rice. They're already like partially cooked slightly, if that's a good example for you. That was a good question. You could use either in this case because they both soak up the moisture overnight. Like I said, I just wouldn't use steel cut oats because they don't soak it up as much. They're like grittier, hardier texture. So you have to cook those. So typically we have a bunch of overnight oat recipes on the member portal, but like I said, I wanted to highlight something different. So I'm just going to show you guys how to do overnight chia. So what I did was I took 2 tablespoons of chia seeds and put them in my container. If you can kind of see them in here, they are they're going to be a fat serving. They actually expand in liquid when you leave them overnight. So kind of like oats do. They get like a little gel, like a pudding kind of texture. So 1 tablespoon would be 1 fat serving for chia seeds. So what I wanted to show was doing this instead of oats. You want to add some liquid to it the same way that you would oats. So one of my favorite tricks is I like to use coffee as the liquid. So this is the leftover coffee that I had in my coffee pot this morning. And I just emptied out my coffee pot earlier when I was cleaning it after my morning coffee, and I save it in a mug in the fridge. So I usually do that every day. Number 1, I don't like to waste my coffee. Number 2, sometimes I like to have an iced coffee later in the day. Or I will use this in a smoothie or overnight oats or overnight chia. So I'm just going to pour the coffee in here, and then I kind of just stir it up. So I like mine to be really thick. So I don't usually put a lot of liquid. I like to just coat the chia seeds. Someone said, what if you hate coffee? Oh, what are you doing here? No. You could use water or almond milk. So it's probably going to be like 1/4 cup to 1/2 cup, depending on how liquidy you like it. So any liquid of choice will work here. I like the flavor of the coffee with the fruit. So if you've never tried it and you do like coffee, please do and let me know, how it came out. So it'll kind of just look like a soupy thing. I don't want to, let's see if I can show you guys. There you go. Just like barely covered by the coffee. So then what I want to do is I'm going to cut up a banana. So a banana I have found is okay overnight. If you're really like picky about the fruit texture after you cut it. You could also use frozen fruit. So if you put frozen fruit in here, the next morning, it will be like defrosted and ready to eat. So I use frozen fruit a lot. A banana is pretty much a staple one. You could also use berries here. So strawberries or blueberries work wonderfully, especially with the coffee. They taste great. So all I did was kind of like slice up that banana. And then I'm just going to give it another little mix. So I have a lot of clients who really love protein overnight oats or protein chia pudding as well. So that's another way that you can make sure that you hit more than one macronutrient target, is if you want to add 1 scoop of protein powder to this as well, then that would give you a half protein serving. So if you do that, just make sure that you add enough liquid, because the protein powder obviously soaks up a lot of the liquid. So far in here I have 2 fats. I have a fruit, which gets me a little bit of carbohydrate. And then this is just like overnight oats or the savory bowl, where you can add in toppings. So tomorrow when I eat this, I'm probably going to add in a little bit of granola for some starch and a little bit of crunch. I'm also going to add in a scoop of peanut butter. So this one is a little bit heavier on the fat servings for the day, but if you're somebody who has a hard time getting in your fat servings anyway, then this might actually help you. So I added in a scoop of peanut butter. Again, you can add in kind of like anything to this. Someone said how much frozen fruit or berries. So it's however much portion you want to have. If you want to have 1 fruit serving, that would be 1 banana, 1 small banana like I just did, or 1 cup of berries would be considered 1 fruit serving. 1 cup of frozen berries would be considered 1 fruit serving as well. Does anybody have any questions? So again, you could line up your bowls and do a couple of these, like you could do these in mason jars or Tupperware containers like these, or if you wanted to do them, the savory oats, like if you wanted to do it in a bento box, and then those meal prep boxes I showed you, and then you could combine all of the ingredients together when you're ready to eat it. So these are 2 recipes that you have available on the portal that you can easily make for breakfast prep. So what questions do you guys have, or what comments do you have? Are there any favorite recipes that you have that you think other people would like, or any recipes, what are your favorite recipes from the portal? Is there anything else that you want to know about or need tips with for meal prep or breakfast prep? The next series is going to be for lunch, and then we're also going to do a dinner one too. So I'll kind of like break down how you can do some lunch and dinner recipes as well. Somebody asked, nice to have an alternative to cottage cheese. You could actually make a savory cottage cheese dish as well. So good job thinking outside the box. I know you're saying you're tired of cottage cheese, but maybe some people haven't thought of doing that. So I do have some clients who like to use cottage cheese as the base, as the protein, and then maybe add some toppings to that too. So kind of like think of things that you can build off of. Somebody asked, what bread would I recommend? I'll show you. So I'm really liking Dave's Killer Bread a lot lately. I will say my #1 choice is to get bread from the bakery, because I just like a really fresh loaf of bread. I really like sourdough bread from the Whole Foods bakery or from the farmer's market around where I live. I just find that the bakeries are usually using like really fresh, minimal ingredients. If I'm going to buy bread from the store, I really like this Dave's Killer Bread. 1 slice will be 1 starch serving. So we know that starches are between 15 to 20 grams of carbs and about 80 to 120 calories. So this bread has 22 grams of carbs in 1 slice, which is slightly over 20, but we won't hold it against them. 80 to 120 calories is 1 starch, and this has 110. So it falls right into line with that 1 starch serving. So 1 starch per 1 slice of bread. So your avocado toast will be 1 starch per toast slice, plus however much avocado you use in the morning. So you would get carbohydrate, you would get fat, and then somebody commented that they like to put eggs with it. That would get you a half protein serving. So there goes kind of like what we were talking about with hitting multiple macronutrients in your breakfast to help you feel a little bit more full for longer. Somebody said they love this bread. Good, I'm glad to hear it. And somebody asked, how early should you eat breakfast from waking up? So typically we recommend that our clients eat within an hour of waking up and then every 2 to 3 hours following that. So I know that eating breakfast is, sometimes hard for people. So if you can get yourself onto that schedule of eating within an hour of waking up and then every 2 to 3 hours after that, if you have a hard time with that, try setting an alarm for yourself to remind yourself to eat. I bet you never thought you would have to set an alarm to eat. But staying on track with that eating schedule is kind of like fueling your tank before you get to empty so that you don't end up overeating later. So that's really important. Kind of like feeding your body and keeping it fueled throughout the day can also kind of like just keep you fueled so that you don't end up in like an emergency situation where you run out of gas and overeat later. Somebody said, as a vegetarian, they struggle with protein servings. Not a smoothie fan, not using protein powders. Are there any other protein suggestions? So I'm not sure if you eat eggs, but if you're not a vegan or avoiding eggs would be a great source of protein. In this savory bowl that I made, you could replace the egg with the tofu. You could also do, they make some like meats, some breakfast meats, like they're like sausages. Like I'm trying to think of the brand that I really like, but it'll come to me in a minute. But they make vegan sausages out of wheat gluten, so there's no soy in them. That would be an option they have like 20 grams of protein in them, I believe. You could also do like this bowl with beans. So you could use beans in the morning. You could do a tofu scramble or a tempeh scramble. There's also a recipe for a tempeh scramble on the portal. Anybody who's not a vegetarian might not know, but these are all kind of like soy products. So it might help you to reach your protein goal if you add in some of these soy products. So I know you mentioned vegetarian. I don't know if you do Greek yogurt. Greek yogurt would also be a really good source of protein. Chia seeds are also great too. You kind of have to have more of them in order to count as your protein, just like nuts, but that's something that you could do too if you want to start doing a chia pudding. Somebody said they love the bread. And then somebody asked about, how do you recommend storing Ezekiel sprouted grain bread? I personally always put my bread in the fridge, and I found with the Ezekiel bread, I do the same thing there too. But I just think that my bread stays a little bit more fresh by putting it in the fridge, so that's what I would recommend. And then somebody asked about how many starch servings should people with pre-diabetes have? It kind of like depends on your height, your weight, your activity level. All of those things are kind of taken into account. At OnPoint Nutrition, the way that we allocate starches and portions to clients is based on the diabetic exchange. So probably somewhere around like 3 or 4, but it would depend, you kind of want to make sure that they're single ingredient and complex carbohydrates because, if you're pre-diabetic, that doesn't mean that you need to avoid starches. You definitely want to include them, but probably, going with things that are a little bit more nutrient dense would be the way that you would want to go. Somebody said they're never hungry enough to eat that often. I think you're talking about like 2 to 3 hours. So it might be hard in the beginning to kind of like get used to that. That's kind of like what I was talking about with filling your tank before it's empty. So even if you're not hungry, if you're at that like quarter of a tank level, before you get to empty is kind of like when you would want to refuel, just like if you were driving your car, so that you don't run out of gas and into an emergency situation. You don't want your body to run out of gas either, because you're less likely to make good food choices and to stop when you're full if you're in a hunger state. So I would encourage you to set alarms and to try to eat every 2 to 3 hours, even if you're not hungry, because over time your body will adjust, and before you know it, I think you will be hungry on that time schedule. So yes, I do think that you should try to eat even if you're not hungry. Somebody said they mix oats, chia seeds, vegan protein, flax seeds, spirulina, and that's the breakfast mix. So that's awesome. That's pretty much what I did here. You can see it's already started to harden. Remember how slippery and slidey it was? So the chia seeds are already kind of like expanding in this one. I might end up adding a little bit more liquid just to make sure that it stays, you know, like it doesn't get too thick. So this person also adds oats to theirs, vegan protein, flax seeds. That's great. So in that, you're going to get starch, you're going to get fat, you're going to get protein, a little bit more fat with the flax seeds. So it's a really great mix of a bunch of different macros. And then dried fruits and nuts. Someone's asked me if they're good for a pre-diabetic person. I would say yes to nuts. And then the dried fruit, certainly an option, but you just have to be careful with the dried fruit because a lot of times it does have added sugar. So you want to get something that where you look at the package, the only ingredient is the fruit. I actually have some dried fruits I can show you as an example. So these were given to me because they were an extra from somebody's kitchen. And the first ingredient, these are cranberries. The first ingredient is cranberries and then sugar. So this can be something that maybe you wouldn't want to do. A serving of these is a 1/4 cup. Typically we say like 2 ounces or like 2 tablespoons of dried fruit is a serving. Whereas you could have a whole apple that has no added sugar, which would, you know, give you more fiber and make you feel a little bit more full than doing the dried fruit. There's 29 grams of sugar here, to kind of give you an idea. Anybody else have any questions or comments? These are all great questions. Or favorite breakfast recipes? We just added a coconut banana bread to the member portal that I really want to try. That would be something that you could have in the morning as your starch, and then maybe like add, you know, I don't know if you would want to eat eggs with it, but you could have eggs, or if you do a protein powder or something. Somebody said they love pancakes, but sometimes worry it's all starch and nothing else. So I would also say you could add protein powder to your pancake batter. You would probably have to play around with the level of liquid that you add, but you could make like a protein pancake. So also Kodiak cakes. So if you like pancakes and you're looking for maybe something that has like a little bit more protein or something besides the carb, the Kodiak cake pancake mix, or Birch Bender's Power Cakes, I think. You can buy those mixes and they already have a little bit of protein in them. So it wouldn't just be carb, it would also count as a half protein. So you can either add your own protein powder, which you might have to play around with the recipe with, or you can get one of those like protein mixes, or you could make pancakes, have like a portion or two, and then also have like a protein shake or eggs on the side. And somebody commented that there was a good banana pancake on the member portal, which I agree with. And then somebody commented that they came in a little bit late and they were wondering if they work with clients that have PCOS, and we definitely do. So we're a team of registered dietitians and nutritionists, and have experience working with clients who have PCOS. So definitely like changing your diet can help you alleviate some of those symptoms. So definitely, if you're not already an OnPoint client, feel free to set up a free consultation on our website and you can meet with me. And somebody asked if pasta was not allowed. I would never tell anybody that they couldn't eat pasta. Just anti-goodness there. So we never tell anybody that they can or can't eat any item. I'll never tell you exactly what to eat. It's all about kind of like paying attention to your portion sizes and timing of your meals and snacks. So kind of like an all foods fit mindset here. So I'm all for pasta. Any other questions or comments? So if you're an OnPoint member, you will be able to go back and view this recording if you want to check out any of the recipes. I'm also going to send through the banana peanut butter steel cut oatmeal. That's kind of like what I did with this chia here, except I didn't use oats, but I did like a banana peanut butter chia. So I just sent that out to everybody. And then if you have any questions, please refer to your nutritionist, or if you want to send me an email. And then join me next week for, oh, somebody asked where to buy chia at a bulk store. So I'll show you kind of like my stash of chia. Typically I have like this whole mason jar full. I'm getting down to the bottom here. So I usually buy it, if you want to buy it in bulk, you can get it from Whole Foods. They have a bulk section there. You could actually bring your own container and they'll take out the weight of your container. And then you only pay for the seed. So you can do that. If you like to buy in bulk, you can get this from Sam's Club, or you can get it from Costco or a place like that. I typically usually just get mine from the regular grocery store, and it's usually a big bag that you get. Somebody mentioned nuts to you is super cheap for a pound. So nuts to you if you live in Philadelphia. But I believe she was asking from Canada, so it's a little bit of a hike. She says, I'm in Canada, remember? So yeah, you could also order on Amazon. I think Amazon ships to Canada, right? All right, so again, feel free to set up a free consultation with us. All OnPoint members will also be getting an email kind of like summarizing everything that we talked about. And then reach out if you have any questions, and join me next week for the launch webinar. Bye.